Hi everybody, I'm Tom Hafer, the host of the Parish Podcast, and welcome to this edition. The Parish Podcast is available in audio-only form on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you find podcasts. Hi everybody, this is the Parish Podcast, and welcome to it. I am Tom Hafer, the Communications and Media Director for the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, and this is a production of the Communications and Media Department. Our guest today is the retiring director of the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, Dick Gremillion. 30 years, Dick.
31 years, actually. 28 years as the OHSEP director.
Now, I have to ask you a question first. Is it true that you're retiring now because of this year's hurricane forecast?
Yes. Although I decided that after Hurricane Laura.
So the Parish Podcast, as you know, you're the first person who has been a two-time guest now on the Parish Podcast. Warning again that this is a government jargon and acronym-free podcast. So you could be assessed a severe penalty if you slip into government jargon. Now,
I probably can't know anything about those things anyway.
So now, since you were last on the Parish Podcast, it was declared that FEMA is okay to use. So if we say FEMA, we're not breaking any of the sacrosanct rules here. So let's talk about your role here over the course of time. 28 years as OHSEP director. What changed the most over those years?
I think that the two things that changed the most are communications, number one, and people's attitude about communications. You got the physical smartphone, all the nice cameras. Everybody now has a really nice camera in their hand. And then to carry that on, just like we're doing today, people are more open to different sorts of information medium nowadays. And that's a great help, because most of what we do a lot of planning, but when it gets to a disaster time, critical information is our business. And having more simple means, almost anybody can listen to this podcast with a little bit of trouble. And we encourage people, if you see something and you have a smartphone with you, take a picture of it. Let us look at it, see what's going on. It kind of turns the average citizen into a reporter when you look at it.
It's also a circumstance where you may just be finding out about something through the emergency channels, and that information could already be posted on Facebook or social media. If somebody sees what's happening, it's a train wreck or it's whatever.
That literally happens probably weekly now. Mm-hmm. Fact is, we get a lot of calls from the media saying,
right.
Mr. Smith saw something looked like a UFO. Okay, we'll check it out and give us the picture. And that's kind of one of the things that we do when we're not doing disasters, is that sort of work.
Let's talk about how you got to the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. How did all that happen, and where did you start, and how did you become OHSEP director?
Well, my real first profession was as a claims adjuster / supervisor for USF&G Insurance Company, and for about 15 years, and then with Shelter about 3 years before that. So about 18 years experience. When I came to work at the police jury, I came to help them with their insurance program. I'd been here for 3 months, and the personnel director passed away, and they asked me to take over that role for a short period of time, which turned into 3 years. But it was an interesting experience. Personnel or human resources was not really my field, but we did okay with it. Being a claims adjuster, however, was a real good primer for doing emergency preparedness. It's just you're on the opposite. When you're an adjuster, you're on the finished end. When you're in a preparedness role, you're making plans for that finish, whichever way that may go.
When you became the OHSEP director, was it civil defense then, or was it OEP at that point?
It was OEP at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I took over from Paul Rainwater
right.
When he left in 1996, and Things have been rather calm. They had done a lot of work on chemical industry issues and things like that, but had not had that many weather events. And so, starting with the ice storm in 1997,
Yeah.
we got very busy, and I had them check the records. We've had, in the past 25 years, we've had 25 presidentially declared emergencies. Wow. And just to put that in perspective, a jurisdiction our size probably wouldn't expect to have more than 3 or 4 in a career.
Wow. This is the Parish Podcast. It is a production of the Communications and Media Department of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, and our guest is the retiring Director of the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, Dick Gremillion. Dick, you have worn the same clothes to work every day for past 20-something years. Well, do you have to buy a whole new wardrobe, or do you get to keep wearing that?
Yeah, no, I guess I have to go get some shorts and T-shirts, flip-flops, whatever you go fishing in.
Let's talk about some memories that you have. What are some of the big career events or moments that really put a lasting memory for you?
Probably there's a couple of high points, not necessarily good or bad, but high points. And the first one was Hurricane Rita. I've been a director for almost 10 years, and we were continuing to lull with Hurricane Audrey. It had been so long since we'd had a hurricane. Hurricane Lily came close in 2002, but everything looked pretty good when we went to bed that night of Hurricane Rita. And then I got a call from Steve Reinard with the Weather Service office at 3 a.m., which I knew was not good news. And he told me, he said, "Dick, we need to prepare. This thing is heading straight for us." And if you recall, Hurricane Rita was nearing a Category 5 strength when it was in the Gulf. Thankfully, it slowed down a little bit. But I literally saw my life flash before my eyes. The immediate thought is, okay, now what do we do now? And we got up, went to work, and about 3-4 weeks later, we finally had a breather. But Rita was a close call as far as it did a lot of damage, but not nearly as much as it would have had it stayed a Category 4 or 5 like it was out in the Gulf.
That storm came, 30 days or so after Katrina,
right,
which of course was a huge disaster. Thousands of people passed away in the storm. Media attention for weeks and months. Was that a benefit to our area that had happened so recently and helped get the word out to get people out of here?
Well, we had a contingent of people from Calcasieu Parish that had gone down to, we ended up at I-10 and Causeway.
Wow.
And it turned out that was a place where they're evacuating all the people that they were rescuing from rooftops and things like that. But it was mass chaos. It was hard to tell who was in control. The state had given us a couple of missions to take care of for them. But it was the medical situation, you had patients literally laid out on the concrete on I-10. There was a couple of hundred of them. And I was with Jerry Merchant, had walked down with me to look at what the medical situation was. The state wanted to know. And it looked like a scene out of a war movie. And I told Jerry at that time, and he recounted this recently, we can't let this happen in Calcasieu Parish. We're better than this. We know how to control the situation. We know how to prepare, and I think we did really a good job. One of the proudest things that we have is for all of the events, from the ice storm of 97 on through, we've had very few injuries and almost no fatalities, except for after a storm, carbon monoxide or whatever.
Right.
But as a direct result of these storms, we've had very low injury numbers, and you contrast that with the hurricane that hit Florida. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Ian?
Ian.
Ian.
they had over 100 fatalities there because people didn't evacuate. In my opinion, the public agencies were slow to offer that advice.
One of the things that I believe it started with Rita, it may have been done previously, but what occurred was the executive policy group and your office, the OHSEP, got together for what were daily, sometimes twice daily,
Right.
Media briefings, and that allowed that information to get out to people who were scattered across the country.
Yeah, we started that after Hurricane Rita. Mark McMurray got everyone organized, and it's really paid off. We pledged to meet and come out of the meeting with a consensus. Now, of course, on a consensus, you may have some people who are happier than others, but or unhappier than others. But on the whole, it's really been a great asset, and it portrays a position of strength to the public when they're trying to decide which information do I listen to.
One of the things that a lot of people have mentioned in the last few weeks as we've been talking about your career is that you had this calm sense of your presence was very calming and very reassuring to the public when you would speak at these briefings and other events. Talk about that.
Well, my wife says it's because I move slow. I had one of our vendors tell me when I first started, he said, "Man, you need to add some pep to your presentation." And I said, "I'm supposed to be calming people down, not getting them fired up." But no, I don't know what to attribute that to, Tom. I had no media experience when I came to work here. I've had a lot of help with a lot of reporters and people like you who have knowledge of the media and how to use, work with them to make information effective, because that's really what we're looking for.
You were on probably every television network, the Weather Channel, all that. You got to be pretty well known for your television appearances. I would become your agent in a hurricane.
Exactly.
They'd call me and I'd set up the interview for you.
Yeah, it's kind of a daunting thing when you're thinking about, okay, I see this guy on TV and now I'm talking to him. Jim Cantor
Right.
is one that comes to mind, but there've been a whole string of others. I don't know, Tom. I just early in my career I realized that I was going to have to work with the media, and it's just part of the job.
With your retirement, it's now public knowledge that Jared Mays, the assistant
Right.
director for OHSEP, will be the new director. What advice would you have for Jared?
Well, I think the thing that we've done effectively is that we try to talk to people like you would talk to your own family or something, and don't make sure don't sugarcoat things. You don't have to be hysterical, but don't sugarcoat things. You don't want to raise expectations of something that may not be possible to happen. And so, like I tell my staff all the time, keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut. That'll go a long way of making things work right.
This is the Parish Podcast, a production of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury's Communications and Media Department. I'm Tom Hafer, and Dick Gremillion, the longtime director of the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. That name change from OEP to OHSEP after 9/11.
That was after 9/11.
Yeah, they added Homeland Security to what you had to do. How much of a change was that?
Well, we still have additional duties because of that. We get a daily briefing from the state on Homeland Security matters, and all of the different level of security at the plants and things like that. Go back to 9/11. It's added that much more to the job of things to worry about.
Let's get some stories. I want you to tell the Cayuchi Coulee story first. That's one of my favorites.
Well, this was for Hurricane Harvey, I believe. And on Monday night before Hurricane Harvey hit, we had the tremendous rainstorm here, particularly in East Lake Charles, the Terrace area, and over by 210 and Highway 14. And the kind of concrete ditch that you see, that's Calcasieu Coulee.
Yeah.
And so we were given a briefing, and we early on we started using sign language because people who are deaf need that. And we had some excellent ones, and we had a lady that was here quite often, and we were given a briefing that day, and I think it was the Tuesday after we had the big flood, but yet before Hurricane Harvey got here. So we're standing in front giving a briefing as we normally do, and she stood at my side, usually on my left side. And when I got to the point where I was going to describe where the flooding was, I said, and the water is flowing, from downtown Lake Charles, and this one out Calcasieu Coulee and then on into the river. And as I was saying Calcasieu Coulee, I noticed that her hands stopped moving. And so I looked over at her, and she folded her hands and put them over her chest. And time stopped for me. I'm thinking, okay, now what do I do? She looks at me and she says, I don't know how to spell Calcasieu. And so it seemed like about an hour, but it was actually a split second. I just turned to her and said, you don't expect me to tell you, do you? And she started laughing, and then the sheriff was sitting on the front row. And I looked at him, he said, well, don't look at me. I didn't know how to spell Calcasieu Parish until I was in the 8th grade. So it was one of the funnier things that ever happened to me. And literally, it seemed like time stood still.
Any other favorite stories that you have? I know you met several presidents. That's a part of it.
Met President Trump twice. The second time was for Hurricane Laura, and I was able to have a few minutes of one-on-one time from him. And regardless of who the president is, he is the president of the United States, and you don't meet them every day. And I was lucky enough to meet him twice, and I met George H.W. Bush also, who reminded me a lot of my father-in-law. And just so many things. We've done things and seen things that people could only dream about, and it's been a very interesting career. And when I look back and we're having talks like this, there's so many little things that I start remembering. I mean, we've got really a lot of good stories. We probably could talk all day, but maybe I should write all that down and write a book or something, my memoirs. But time has passed by so quickly, just in the blink of an eye, that 28 years I've been doing this. We've had a lot of communications. Like you said, once I made my announcement about my retirement, a lot of people have said some really nice things. But I think the thing that I enjoy most is a whole lot of people tell me that I was a mentor for them. And that makes, some of the times when things are kind of rough, you think back on that and know that you've helped other people, get their life in order.
I think that's a great way to end it. Dick Gremillion, thank you so much for being with us on the Parish Podcast. Good luck to you in your retirement. Please enjoy it. Please don't be a stranger. I know you won't. Thanks for being with us today, and thank you for your service all these years.
Thanks, Tom.
Dick Gremillion, the retiring director of the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness here at the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, our guest here on the Parish Podcast. It is a production of the Communications and Media Department of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. Thanks for listening, and so long until next time.